The old question of mocap, motion capture. Should I include it in my showreel? How clean does it need to be? How do I learn it? Where to get motion capture? I would like to actually take time in this video to basically answer those questions once and for all, and hopefully clarify to most of you out there that are interested in mocap and have these questions on how to go about some of these things, what are studios looking for, and how much do you really need mocap in your repertoire as an animator. Do you need it a lot? Do you need to clean it up a lot? Do you have to have all mocap, no hand key? All of these questions we'll answer next in this video. So I hope this is useful to all of you looking for those answers, and let's get started. All right, so welcome to another video, guys. My name is Harvey Newman. I'm here to share my passion for animation, share my experience with all of you, so hopefully some of you don't have to go through the burdens that I went through in my career, and your path will be slightly easier than mine was. If you're interested in getting into gameplay animation, games animation, film animation, VFX, all that goodness. Now, here in this video, we're talking about motion capture. And the reason why is mainly because it's so prevalent nowadays that a lot of film, VFX, and games are based on motion capture. Naturally, the question that most animators have is, how much do I really need to learn how to clean mocap, and do I have to have it in my showreel? Now, I'm going to backtrack a little bit and basically talk a little bit about what studios are looking for, right? So, mocap for games, and this is the stuff that I've been doing for the most part in my career, is very specific for gameplay, and there's also mocap for cinematics. Now, mocap for cinematics in games works very similar to what film and VFX use mocap for. And in cinematics, whenever you clean mocap in the studio, normally it needs to be a higher quality of mocap. So normally studios pay a lot of money to actually have the motion capture to be as the fidelity of the motion capture to be as real or as one-to-one with reality as possible. So basically you get a lot of details whenever the characters move, fingers sometimes, facial sometimes. So there's a lot of animation or money that gets spent into getting that data, that motion capture data, back to the studio with as highest fidelity as possible. Now, when the animators normally take that animation in, normally there's a huge planning phase that goes before you go into the mocap studio, mainly because you know where the scenes should happen and you know what the actors should be doing. Normally you know the dialogue, you know where they need to go from A to B, you know the scenes and the setting of where they're going to walk from, you know where certain explosions are going to happen, where certain dialogue is going to happen. So you basically are choreographing the scene around what you intend to put in the game, right? So cinematics is very straightforward because what you actually have planned in pre-production, you actually just go ahead and to the mocap studio and then shoot that stuff. Now, for gameplay, things get much more interesting and also much more complex, because what happens with mocap is that you need to actually have little chunks of mocap that need to work together. For this, you normally have to have somebody that has lots of experience working in game, so they can tell you, you need this amount of walks, this amount of runs, this amount of sprints with these different situations, right? So maybe the character is walking and it's raining, so the character needs to walk in a certain way, or they are sprinting and they have to actually, like, maybe they're sprinting on a swamp or something and there's a little bit of resistance. So those kind of situations are the stuff that we capture in the mocap studio, but once again, it needs to be planned in a different way, but very detailed on the animations that need to be implemented later on in game. Now, regardless if you do cinematics or gameplay, you need to clean up that motion capture data after the studio finishes capturing it. And this is where you come in as an animator. Something that I need to mention here is that the data can be very clean or very dirty. And by that I mean, like, whenever the studio pays big bucks, so normally Hollywood movies or something like that, they will pay for the most highest solve, that's what they call it, solve, that a studio, mocap studio, can give, which means that they have more markers and the capture is actually more clean with more cameras. So you capture everything that the character does at a very high fidelity. A studio that has a tighter budget might actually get something, a solve, that it doesn't come out as clean as something that costs much more. Now, this is normally offset by the animator, because the animator now has to do less work or more work depending on the solve and the quality of the mocap. I actually had to clean up mocap that actually has been absolutely rubbish and is very difficult. And sometimes you do wonder that this would have been easier if you just had made it by hand, like hand key the whole thing, and that would be much easier than cleaning up the mocap that came in super dirty, right? But these are the problems that you have to deal with when you are an animator. Regardless of the situation and regardless of the solve, you need to clean up the mocap, sometimes more, sometimes less, but you need to clean it up. Now, and this is when the experience, your experience as an animator, cleaning up mocap comes in really handy, right? Comes in clutch. Because if you are an animator that has experience cleaning up mocap and have been doing it for a long time, you take less time cleaning up the mocap and putting it in game than an animator that needs to learn on the job, right? So that is basically the cycle of mocap as it is. So how does this relate to you as an animator, and do you need to learn it or don't you need to learn it? So I believe, the way I hire at least, an animator that is really skillful in hand key can clean mocap, and normally it takes about a couple of weeks, a month max for them to understand how to clean up mocap. Learning the skills to clean up mocap takes about no time, and learning the skills to hand key takes a lifetime. So learning how to hand key is way more valuable to a team, to a person that I'm actually trying to hire, than learning just mocap. So just know that hand key is definitely where you want to be as an animator regardless. Don't think that you can just learn how to clean up mocap and you're going to get a job, Bob's your uncle, because one day you're going to get a hand key shot and you're going to be burned and you're not going to know where to start, right? Because the data is normally there and the animations are there and you just have to clean it. But for a hand key animator to clean up mocap is no problem. So something to keep in mind before we go ahead is that whenever a studio orders mocap data, they have spent thousands upon thousands of pounds on getting that data or buying that data from a mocap studio. Shooting mocap is very expensive. So when it gets to the studio, it's very important for that mocap, for the data of the mocap to be within the file as raw as possible, but also as smooth as possible. So modifying that mocap is definitely a bit of an art form, because you cannot clean it up too much, because if you do, then what's the point of the mocap if you could just like hand key it? But not cleaning it enough means that you get lots of pops and lots of stuff happening that shouldn't be there, and elbows looking funny and things like that, that obviously doesn't look natural in a game or a film. That line that you thread is very thin, and normally if you're anything like me, I made lots of mistakes in the beginning, and I definitely over cleaned the mocap to the point that my leads used to tell me in the beginning, like, you are going too hard on cleaning up the data. And now what is the point of the mocap? We work so hard to capture this mocap and make sure that this mocap is actually absolutely amazing on set with the actors. I just need you to kind of nudge it the right way so it's clean, fits our system, has the right loops, etc., but don't touch it more than you need to, right? And this is why the line is very thin when it comes to the art form of cleaning up mocap. And this is what I advise you guys to learn, right? So if you do anything when it comes to mocap and learning mocap for your showreel in order to showcase it, make sure that you learn that little filter almost that allows you to kind of like clean up the mocap that you almost feel seamless. So think about Uncharted or The Last of Us, right? You never once think about this is mocap, you just think this is a game and it plays really smooth and everything is amazing. However, there's a lot of work behind the scenes from the animators, cleaning up the mocap to make sure that it kind of flows in game 100%. And some of it was hand key on top of mocap, or it was mocap on top of hand key, but either way, they made it seamless in a way that it feels natural in terms of timing and spacing and all that goodness. So you need to learn how to actually make sure that the data is as clean as a whistle. And if you do that, studios will look at your work in mocap and go, this guy is the guy that we need to clean up mocap for us. Now, do you absolutely need mocap in your showreel? I'm a big advocate of no, you don't, because as long as you showcase to me as an animation director or lead, whoever is hiring you, that you know animation, you understand the principles, and you have a good taste for what is creative and what is realistic, and you have a good sense of timing and spacing and all these other things that are absolutely essential for animation, to me, a person like that I can hire, and then I can teach him how we clean up mocap in our studio, right? That is actually much more valuable. However, if you actually want to add mocap to your showreel, it kind of showcases that you are willing to actually go that extra step. So you have worked with mocap, you have cleaned mocap, you understand the process of cleaning up mocap, which sometimes can be very difficult for animators, and is basically going to be bonus points for you. But don't actually make a full show reel of just motion capture, because what ends up happening is that motion capture, because it's natural, because it's basically what you do in real life, is not really appealing, and it doesn't showcase that your work and how you think in any ways, right? It's just basically a guy walking from A to B, a guy shooting that was captured by somebody, you had the data, you cleaned it up, and then you put it in your showreel. But it doesn't really mean that maybe you had the idea, or was you shooting the mocap or anything of that, because the data is already there. So you're not creating anything from zero. And this is what most directors, most animators want to see, is your thought process, your creativity in your showreel, so then they can actually give you perhaps a shot that doesn't have mocap but needs something specific, and you are the guy that can hand key it to fit with the rest of the motion capture data that already exists, right? I've done that a few times, and it's actually really satisfying when you can almost break that line where you hand keyed something that is so nice in terms of timing and spacing that it looks like mocap, but it was fully hand keyed, right? So that is basically where the mocap circle kind of like ends, right? If you want to learn mocap, if you want to like put some mocap in your showreel, put it, but make sure that it's only a little bit, and make sure that it signifies to the studio that you've cleaned this to a point that is very, very much like seamless and is very much clean mocap, and you understand the process. If you can do that, great, add it to your showreel. But I don't think it's absolutely essential for you to put mocap in your showreel in order to get a job, right? Motion capture is not the thing that is going to get you the job. It's going to be your animation skills that are going to get you the job. And last but not least, you guys want to learn where to learn all this mocap goodness that I've just been talking about. How do you go about it? Where do I start? All of that goodness is kind of complicated, I have to admit, to actually find sources, but know that there's a few ways that you can go about it. So the 3 ways that I know of is 1, doing it directly in Maya with external tools. So I highly recommend Red9. Red9 is this tool that you can get online right now. You can get a subscription for about $30 a month, and you can actually import mocap data directly into your character with the tools of Red9. There's many tutorials out there. Check it out. I'll leave a link down below. Definitely check them out. Great people. Love to work with them. They are the easiest path that I found to actually add mocap to your characters. Second, and most common, is Motion Builder. Motion Builder by default is the software that every studio uses to clean up mocap, and there's a bunch of reasons, but the biggest reason is that it's a very fast piece of software and allows you to have a bunch of mocap data, motion capture data. You can have 5-10 actors all having motion capture data, and it doesn't slow down. Maya has difficulty dealing with big scenes with lots of motion capture data because it's all keys everywhere. So Motion Builder is much better at dealing with that. So you can just go to Motion Builder, import your mocap data by using Human IK, and then clean up the data with Motion Builder, which most studios do anyways, right? So that's the second way. And the third way is Blender. Blender recently, there's many YouTube videos right now, many links to many YouTube videos where how to clean up your mocap data in Blender. I'll leave a link down below to a few, But Blender, I haven't used it myself, but I heard great things about Blender and cleaning up motion capture data. It's a free piece of software, which is absolutely beautiful. So if you want to start anywhere and you actually don't want to pay the money for a motion builder or a Maya, then definitely consider starting with Blender, or maybe get a free license or temporary license from a Maya and give that a try, or motion builder, and then see which one you like the most. Either way, many resources out there on how to actually clean up motion data. I actually recorded a few videos here in the channel, 2 or 3 videos on how to clean up your data, your motion capture data, the way at least that I do it with Red9 and all that goodness. So go and check them out, leave a link down below. Now, the software that you use to clean up motion capture, we talked about. Where do you get motion capture data from? Now, the biggest source, the freest source that I know of is Mixamo. Mixamo has really universal motion capture data that I believe has HIK already built in. Should be easy for you to add to your scenes. So check it out. It belongs to Adobe, Mixamo. I'll leave a link down below again. But that is where you get your motion capture from that you can then add to your software of choice, right? If this was useful to you in any ways, consider subscribing, liking, and also commenting down below. Let me know about your experience with motion capture. Let me know if you actually have experience, and if you know of any other sources that I haven't mentioned here in this video. Shout out to my patrons as usual for all the support they give me every single month. Check out my Patreon if you haven't so far, and I hope to see you guys next week. As always, stay well, stay safe. Peace.